Catherine Reynolds hurried through Terminal B of San Diego International Airport, dragging her wheeled suitcase with one hand while tightly gripping her coffee with the other. At 29, Catherine, or Cat, as everyone called her, was used to the hustle and bustle of airports. As a trauma nurse in the emergency unit at Mercy Hospital, she constantly juggled grueling shifts and short trips to visit her family in Seattle. That September morning, the airport was especially crowded. Groups of military personnel in khaki uniforms mingled with vacationing families and hurried executives. San Diego was a naval city after all, with military bases housing thousands of sailors and Marines. Kat glanced at her watch. There were only 20 minutes left until boarding, and she still had to go through security. She quickened her pace, dodging a family with small children, and turned sharply to the right toward the security line. That's when it happened. She collided hard with something, or someone, as solid as a brick wall. Her coffee flew from her hand, scattering in a perfect arc, before landing with a splash on the pristine white shirt of the man in front of her. The impact nearly knocked her over, but she managed to regain her balance at the last second. "What the hell? Can't you watch where you're going?" the man grunted, glancing at his now stained shirt. He was tall, at least 6 feet, with brown hair cut close to the scalp in an unmistakable military style. His broad shoulders and rigid posture screamed military, even though he was in civilian clothes. "I'm sorry," Kat murmured automatically, searching her bag for... "It was an accident. I was in a hurry, and..." "Of course he was," the man interrupted disdainfully. His gray-green eyes coldly examined her. "Always staring at that damn cell phone, probably. Typical." Kat felt her face heat up. She didn't even have her phone in her hand, and this guy was being completely unfair. "Look, I already apologized. It was an accident. There's no need to be rude." "Rude?" He laughed humorlessly. "Madam, I have an important meeting in 2 hours, and now I look like a 5-year-old who spilled his breakfast." He took the tissues she offered and tried, unsuccessfully, to wipe away the brown stain that was spreading across the white fabric. Kat was about to answer when she noticed something in his eye. A slight confusion, a momentarily lost look, as if he had forgotten what he was saying. Then he blinked several times and ran a hand over his face. "Are you okay?" she asked, her nurse's instinct overriding her irritation. "I'm fine," he replied curtly, but his voice sounded weak. "I just need... .. He didn't finish the sentence. Instead, he took a staggering step to the side, as if the ground were shifting beneath his feet. Kat recognized the signs immediately. Before she could react, the man's eyes rolled back and he collapsed to the airport floor with a dull thud that reverberated through the terminal, falling like a felled tree. "Step back! Make room!" Kat shouted, putting her luggage aside and kneeling beside him. A small crowd was already beginning to form around her. "I'm an emergency room nurse," she announced to a security guard who was rapidly approaching. The man was unconscious, his skin pale and clean. Kat placed 2 fingers against his neck, searching for a carotid pulse. It was there, but weak and irregular. Very irregular. "He's having a heart attack or severe arrhythmia," she told the security guard. "We need an AED defibrillator immediately and call an ambulance." The security guard spoke into his radio, and Kat vaguely heard the announcement on the airport's loudspeaker system, asking for any doctors or healthcare professionals present. She was completely focused on the man in front of her. She began chest compression, counting aloud. 1, 2, 3, 4... ... The surrounding crowd had moved back, forming a respectful circle. Some were filming with their cell phones, but Kat barely registered it. After 30 compressions, she tilted his head back, opened his mouth, and gave him 2 breaths. Then she resumed compression, she murmured as sweat began to form on her forehead. "Don't die on my watch, soldier." Another security guard came running in with an AED defibrillator. Kat grabbed it and quickly opened it, recalling her training. She turned the device on and attached the adhesive pads to the man's chest after tearing his shirt. "Stand back," she ordered as the AED analyzed the victim's heart rhythm. Seconds later, the machine announced in a robotic voice, "Shock recommended. Stand back from the patient." Kat made sure no one was touching the man. "Get away!" she shouted again, before pressing the button. The man's body twitched from the shock, then went back to being still. Immediately, she resumed chest compression. On the third compression, the man gasped, his eyes opening wide and confused. Hey, calm down, Kat said, placing a hand on his shoulder to keep him lying down. You fainted and your heart stopped. Stay still. The ambulance is on its way. He blinked a few times, trying to focus his gaze. What? Where am I? His voice was hoarse and weak, almost a whisper. San Diego Airport. I've had a severe cardiac arrhythmia. I'm Kat, an emergency room nurse. Incidentally, the same woman you bumped into and then insulted 5 minutes ago, she added with a small, ironic smile. Recognition flashed through his eyes, followed by something that seemed like shame. He tried to sit up, but Kat held him firmly down. Don't move. You need to stay still until the paramedics arrive. I'm sorry, he murmured, for what I said earlier. I haven't been feeling well for a few days. I bet not, Kat replied, checking her pulse again. It was stronger now, but still irregular. How long have you been feeling unwell? A few days. I thought it was just mission exhaustion. I just got back from ... double quotes. He paused, seemingly remembering that he shouldn't talk about his work. Kat nodded, understanding. You're a SEAL, aren't you? He stared at her, surprised. How did you ... I work at Mercy. We serve a lot of you. Also, San Diego, military haircut, elite physique. And that partially visible tattoo on your forearm is the SEAL's trident. Kat pointed to the symbol that appeared under the torn sleeve of his shirt. He gave a slight smile, which quickly turned into a grimace of pain. Ethan, he finally said. Ethan Miller. Nice to meet you, Ethan, Kat replied, hearing the ambulance sirens approaching, although I would have preferred different circumstances. The paramedics rushed into the terminal, carrying equipment. Kat stood up and quickly reported the situation in concise medical language. Man, approximately 30 years old, sudden collapse followed by cardiac arrest. Resuscitated with 1 cycle of CPR and an AED shock. Current pulse irregular. Approximately 6:00 p.m. No known medical history. As the paramedics took over, placing Ethan on a stretcher, he reached out and grasped Kat's wrist. Thank you, he said, his voice firmer now. You've saved my life. Kat smiled. It's my job. Now let those guys do theirs. She watched as they carried him away, feeling the familiar mix of adrenaline and relief that always followed a successful emergency. It was only then that she realized she had missed her flight. Damn it, she muttered, glancing at her watch. Her weekend in Seattle would have to wait. Sighing, she grabbed her suitcase and headed to the airline counter to reschedule her flight. While waiting in line, I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan Miller, a Navy SEAL with an undiagnosed heart condition. This wasn't good for his career. SEALs were the elite of the elite, subjected to some of the most rigorous training in the world. Any significant medical condition could end it all. 3 days later, Kat was in the middle of her shift at Mercy Hospital when one of the receptionist nurses called her. Kat, someone here is asking for you. She frowned, confused. She hadn't been expecting anyone. She finished administering medication to the current patient and headed to the waiting. Ethan Miller was there, looking much healthier than the last time she had seen him. He was wearing jeans and a simple t-shirt under a light jacket and holding a bouquet of flowers. Nurse Reynolds, he said when he saw her, standing up. Or should I say, lifesaver? Kat couldn't help but smile. Mr. Miller, I see you're doing much better. Thanks to you. He held out the bouquet. I didn't know how to find you to thank you properly, so I called every hospital in the area asking for a trauma nurse named Kat. She accepted the flowers. Genuinely touched by the gesture, there was no need to bother. As I said, I was just doing my job. Your job is at the hospital, not at an airport terminal when you're off duty, Ethan retorted. Besides, I treated you very badly before. Well, before I almost died. Did they diagnose the problem? Kat asked, changing the subject. Ethan nodded, his face growing more serious. Viral myocarditis. Apparently, I caught some kind of virus during my last mission, and it affected my heart. The doctors say that with medication and rest, I should recover completely in a few months. That's great news. Kat smiled, genuinely relieved. And what about your ... job? Temporary medical leave, he replied, with a shrug that seemed forcefully casual. No intense training or missions for now. But at least I'm not permanently off work. Kat's beeper sounded, indicating that she was needed. I need to go back, she said, apologizing. But I'm glad you're feeling better. Wait, Ethan said quickly before she could turn around. I was wondering, maybe when you're off work, we could grab a coffee? Without spilling on each other this time, Kat stared at him, surprised by the proposal. He was asking her, out? The man who 3 days ago had insulted her and then almost died in her arms? I don't know if that would be appropriate, she replied hesitantly. You were practically a patient. Almost, he emphasized with a small smile. Technically, I've never been your patient at this hospital. And, well, almost dying has a way of putting things into perspective. I realized I haven't exactly been open to connections in recent years. The beeping sounded again, more insistently this time. Think about it, Ethan said, handing her a card with his number. No pressure. Just a coffee as a thank you, if nothing more. Kat took the card, tucked it into her uniform pocket, and ran back to the emergency, her brain still processing the unexpected encounter. In the following weeks, Kat tried to focus on her work and forget Ethan Miller. She rescheduled her trip to Seattle and spent a pleasant weekend with her family. She worked double shifts and treated dozens of patients, but the card with his number remained in her drawer, a persistent reminder. Something about Ethan intrigued her. Perhaps it was the unexpected vulnerability she had seen in him when he was unconscious. On the airport floors, different from his initial arrogance. Or perhaps it was just curiosity about who a Navy SEAL really was when he wasn't on a mission. After 3 weeks of deliberation, she finally sent a message. Still interested in that coffee? Kat, the airport nurse, the answer came almost immediately. Absolutely. When? They arranged to meet at a small coffee shop near the beach in Coronado, not far from the naval base. Kat arrived a few minutes early, choosing a table overlooking the ocean. She was nervous, which surprised her. She dealt with life-or-death emergencies daily without hesitation, but a casual coffee made her anxious. Ethan arrived punctually, wearing cargo pants, a navy blue t-shirt, and sunglasses which he removed upon entering. He spotted her immediately and smiled, walking toward her with quiet confidence. You came, he said, looking genuinely pleased. I decided I should at least hear a proper thank you, she replied with a slight smile. How are you feeling? Better every day, Ethan replied, sitting down across from her. I still can't run marathons or swim 5 miles in icy water, but I'm alive, which is a good start. They ordered coffee, a black Americano for a latte for her, and a conversation that started hesitantly soon became surprisingly easy. Kat discovered that Ethan was from a small town in Michigan and had enlisted in the Navy right after high school. He spoke vaguely about his career, obviously limited by what he could share, but she didn't mind. Instead, they talked about places they had both visited, favorite movies, and the strange beauty of San Diego, a city where you could surf in the morning and explore the desert in the afternoon. So, trauma nurse, Ethan commented after a while. It's a tough job, Kat shrugged that it can be intense. But there's something rewarding about being there during people's worst moments and being able to make a difference. I understand that, he nodded. It's part of the reason I became a SEAL. I wanted to do something meaningful, something bigger than myself. He paused, swirling his coffee cup. Although I have to admit, the adrenaline rush is also a draw. Kat laughed. Says the man who just had a heart attack. Maybe it's time to find less intense hobbies. Like, what? Gardening? He asked with a comical grimace. Why not? Plants are surprisingly rewarding, and they don't try to kill you. Speak for yourself. I'm almost certain a cactus tried to assassinate me once. They laughed, and Kat realized she was genuinely enjoying herself. There was an ease in talking to Ethan that she hadn't expected. 1 cup of coffee turned into 2, and then into an impromptu lunch. Before they knew it, 4 hours had passed. I should go, Kat said finally, glancing at her watch. I have a shift tonight. Of course, Ethan nodded, looking disappointed but understanding. When the bill arrived, he insisted on paying. Please let me do this. It's literally the least I can do for the person who saved my life. Kat gave in, but as they walked out of the coffee shop, she said, Next time, I'll pay. Ethan smiled, his green eyes lighting up. So there will be a next time? Kat felt a slight blush rise to her face. Maybe, she replied with a small smile. If you promise not to have any more cardiac arrests, I will do my best, he promised, raising his right hand as if making an oath. In the following months, they met regularly. Coffee turned into dinner, which turned into walks on the beach and climbs in Torrey Pines. Kat discovered that she enjoyed Ethan's company much more than she had anticipated. Behind the tough exterior, there was a caring, intelligent, and surprisingly funny man. Ethan, for his part, seemed fascinated by her, by the calm she maintained in emergencies, by the compassion she showed towards her patient, and by the determination with which she faced each challenge. His health gradually improved. The doctors were optimistic that he could return to active duty soon, and although Kat was happy about his recovery, she couldn't help but feel a pang of apprehension when she thought about what that would mean for whatever they were building. One Saturday afternoon, about 4 months after their first meeting at the airport, they were walking along Coronado Beach when Ethan stopped abruptly. I have news, he said, his face a mixture of emotion. I've been cleared to return to active duty, conditionally for now, but it's a start. Ethan, this is wonderful, Kat exclaimed, genuinely happy for him. She knew how much his career meant to him. Yes, it is. ... he agreed, but something in his expression seemed hesitant. But, she encouraged, but it means I'll probably be assigned to a missions. He ran a hand through his short hair, a gesture she'd learned he made when he was nervous. Missions I can't discuss, in places I can't reveal, for indefinite period. Kat nodded slowly. I understand. Does it? He asked, sounding genuinely insecure, a rarity for him. Ethan, I've always known who you are and what you... I work with the military all the time. I know what I'm getting into. He took a step toward her, taking her hands and what exactly are you getting yourself into? Kat's heart raced. It was the first time either of them had explicitly acknowledged that what they had was more than casual friendship. I'm not sure, she replied honestly, but I think I'd like to find out. The smile that spread across his face was like the sunrise. Me too, he said, before leaning down and kissing her gently. As they walked away, Kat chuckled softly. I never imagined the guy who spilled coffee at an airport would end up like this. Technically, Ethan corrected with a mischievous grin, you spilled coffee on me. Details, details, she waved her hand dismissively. The important thing is that you almost died and I heroically saved your life. And you'll never let me forget that, will you? Never, she confirmed with a smile. It's my eternal trump card in any argument. Ethan laughed, pulling her closer. I think I can live with that. 3 weeks later, Ethan received orders for a mission. He couldn't say where or for how long, only that it would be a while. He spent his last night in San Diego in Kat's small apartment, both trying not to think about tomorrow. The next morning, she drove him to the naval base. They had agreed there would be no tears or dramatic goodbyes. It wasn't either of their styles. So, Kat said as she parked, trying to keep her voice light, don't die out there, okay? I didn't go through all that trouble at the airport for you to go and ruin everything now. Ethan smiled, though his eyes were serious. Yes, ma'am. I'll do my best not to ruin your perfect resuscitation record. He leaned in and kissed her, lingering a little longer than necessary. I'm going to miss you, Kat. I'll miss you too, she replied softly. Come back to me. Always, he promised, squeezing her hand one last time before getting out of the car. Kat watched as he walked toward the gate, military backpack on his shoulders, posture erect and determined. A SEAL returning to the job he had been trained for. Only when he was almost out of sight did he turn and wave one last time. Kat waved back, finally allowing herself to feel the weight of his departure. In the months that followed, Kat immersed herself in her work. It was easier to cope with Ethan's absence when she was busy saving lives and focused on her patients' immediate problems. Occasionally, she would receive a brief message or a rare phone call, always from a different number, always short, always with few details. But it was enough to know that he was alive, that he was thinking of her, that what they had begun was not just a temporary fantasy born of dramatic circumstance. On a particularly difficult night, after losing a young patient in a motorcycle accident, Kat sat in the hospital locker room, trying to compose herself before continuing her shift. Her phone vibrated with a message from an unknown number. I remember the moment I opened my eyes in that airport and saw your face. I've never been so happy to be alive. I carry that memory with me through difficult times." Kat smiled through her tears, putting the phone back in her pocket. She carried that memory with her, not of the moment he woke up, but of the moment she felt his pulse return beneath her fingers. The feeling of a life rescued from the precipice. Life had a funny way of creating connections. A chance encounter at an airport, harsh words exchanged, a sudden breakdown, and then something new and unexpected blossoming from the most improbable circumstances. Kat took a deep breath, dried her eyes, and stood up. There were other patients waiting, other lives that needed her, and somewhere in the world, a Navy SEAL was doing his job, carrying her memory like a talisman against danger. She smiled. Whatever the future held for them, they were both doing what they had been trained to do: save lives, each in their own way. And somehow, in the midst of it all, they had saved each other as well. 6 months after Ethan's departure, Kat was finishing a particularly long shift when a commotion at the emergency room entrance caught her attention. Paramedics rushed in, pushing a stretcher. Man, 31 years old, multiple lacerations and possible head trauma, one of them announced as they passed by. Stable blood pressure, but lost consciousness during transport. Kat automatically approached, ready to help, and then froze. Even with her face partially covered by an oxygen mask, she would recognize him anywhere. "Ethan?" she whispered, her heart stopping for a moment. His eyes opened at the sound of her voice, unfocused at first, then meeting her. A small smile appeared beneath his oxygen mask. "Hello, nurse," he murmured, his voice hoarse but clearly relieved. "Looks like I need saving again." Kat quickly regained her professional composure. Joining the medical team as they carried Ethan to a trauma room, she discovered he had been injured during an operation, the details of which remained confidential. Although his injuries were significant, including deep lacerations to his back and leg as well as a concussion, they were not life-threatening. This time, it was Kat who stayed by Ethan's hospital bedside, monitoring his vital signs and ensuring he received the best possible care. "You have an incredibly bad habit of ending up as my patient," she remarked when they were finally alone, the other doctors having left after fully stabilizing. "Or maybe it's just my subconscious finding ways to get back to," he replied with a tired smile. Kat held her hand, careful with the IV. "Next time, try just calling or texting like a normal person." "Where would the fun be in that?" he joked, but then turned serious. "I'm back for a while this time. Extended medical leave." "For how long?" Kat asked, trying not to sound too hopeful. "At least 3 months," he replied. "Maybe more, depending on the recovery." He squeezed her hand. "Enough time to figure some things out." "What things?" Kat asked, her heart racing. "Things like where we're going, what we want. If you'll still put up with me when I'm not on the verge of death." Kat laughed, leaning in to kiss her forehead. "I think we can investigate all of these issues." In the following week, while Ethan recovered, they had plenty of time for conversations they hadn't been able to have during his brief previous leave or through sporadic messages. Conversations about the future, about the challenges of their chosen careers, about what it meant to build something lasting amidst so much chaos and uncertainty. And on a sunny Sunday, as they walked slowly along the beach, Ethan still limping slightly due to his healing injury, he stopped and turned to her. "You know, in my job, we learn to assess risks, to calculate probabilities, to never enter a situation without a clear plan and multiple escape routes." He took a deep breath, looking unusually nervous. "But some things in life can't be calculated or perfectly planned." Kat watched him curiously, a feeling growing inside her about where this conversation was going. "The day we met, I was being a complete idiot. I was stressed, I wasn't feeling well, and I took it out on a stranger who accidentally spilled coffee on me. And then he saved her life," Kat added with a smile. "And then he saved my life," he agreed with a smile. "Some would say it was coincidence. Others might call it destiny. I only know that when I woke up and saw his face, something changed in me." He took something out of his pocket and, to Kat's surprise, knelt down on the sand in front of her. "Catherine Reynolds, you are the bravest, most compassionate, and most incredible person I have ever met. You have taught me that strength isn't just about physical or mental resilience, but also about openness, vulnerability, and love." He opened a small box, revealing a delicate diamond ring. "I know our lives are complicated and unpredictable, I know there will be challenges, but I also know with more certainty than I've ever felt about anything that I want to face those challenges. Will you marry me?" Kat felt tears welling up in her eyes, a lump of emotion in her throat. This man, who had entered her life in the most unexpected way possible, was now asking to share the rest of their lives together. "Yes," she replied, her voice trembling but determined. "Yes, I would marry you." Ethan's smile lit up his face as he slipped the ring onto her finger. He stood, pulling her into a hug, and Kat felt the same sensation she'd experienced at the airport that day, the feeling that something profoundly significant had happened, something that would change the course of their lives forever. As the sun began to set over the ocean, casting golden rays upon the water, Kat reflected on the extraordinary series of events that had brought them to this moment. A chance encounter, harsh word, a sudden breakdown, a resuscitation, and now, a new beginning. "I think we should include an AED defibrillator in our marriage registry," Ethan murmured against her hair, making her laugh. "And maybe a spill-proof coffee machine," she added. "Definitely," he agreed, pulling her closer. "You never know when you might need one or the other." Kat smiled, resting her head on his chest, listening to the strong, regular beating of his heart, the same heart that had stopped that day at the airport, the same heart that now beat in sync with hers. A reminder of how fragile and precious life can be, and how sometimes, in the most unexpected moments, we find exactly what we didn't know we were looking for.